Hello, everyone. We warmly welcome you all to our special program brought to you by Indian Achievers Forum. I'm your host, Vatika Singh. Indian Achievers Award is an honor that celebrates the people who went extraordinary to effectuate their aspirations and ideas. In this series, we emphasize not only on the struggles and achievements of the people, but also on the social contributions they made to their native land, India. Before introducing you all to our one such achiever, let's take a look at the small AV.
Indian Achievers Forum is driven by a full-fledged advisory board. The board consists of experienced personalities who have excelled in their respective careers. Together, the forum organizes conferences, events, workshops, exhibitions, trade shows, and B2B initiatives in India as well as abroad. Where there is passion, there is achievement. And where there is achievement, there is Indian Achievers Forum.
Self-taught entrepreneur of over 26 years, Srinivasan brings a unique fusion of creativity and process, method to the madness, spontaneity into rigid structures, and believes in depth study of businesses and brands in a dynamic and alive context with respect to market and opportunities. She thrives on insights, direct interference conversations, idea storming, and advocates originality and authenticity to identity creation. She believes in challenging herself and others by continuously deconstructing labels and comfort zones, questioning status quo. Her current focus is working on the fluidity of identity in a disruptive world. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Vatika.
Yeah, so before entering into the questions, tell us something about yourself and your entrepreneurial journey.
So that's a very interesting question. My entrepreneurial journey started when I was about 22, and this is my 26th year as a businesswoman. And it has been extremely rewarding, um, and also definitely, something that honed a variety of my skills. And starting as I did without any mentors and learning on the field, I would say that almost every person that I have met on my way has contributed in some way or other to the richness of where I am today in terms of being a professional.
Right. So, since you mentioned that you started your entrepreneurial journey at the age of 22, so what was it like? Like, how has this journey been?
What it was like was, I mean, if you look at any young girl who actually has a mind of her own, who's very, very keen to explore creatively whatever she's setting out to do, uh, one of the key challenges was that who do you talk to? Who do you reach out? How do you actually convince people that you're very serious about whatever you're setting out to do? And that apart from important things like a marriage, relationship, children, and other things, that your career is something that's very integral to your identity and to your self growth. I think the resilience of trying to stay the course and convincing people that you are in this journey to stay um, and groom not just yourself but others along the way. Yes, that I think would have been a fairly critical challenge that one has to face. And of course, apart from that, I think the lack of having the right kind of financial backups or having other social structures that actually understand women at work and more so women entrepreneurs. So yeah, that. Those are the few challenges. But on field, I've always found that when you are very, very committed to what you do and you're very passionate about where you come from in regard to your work, you do tend to get taken seriously. And I was very lucky in that sense that, irrespective of my age, irrespective of which geography or organization, I think the fact that I brought a lot of integrity and passion to my ideas and powering them, I always somehow found the right supporters on the other side of the table too, who valued what I brought to the table, and that includes the team also that I had as my backup.
Right, ma'am. So, since we know for a fact that nothing comes easy, so what all were the challenging predicaments that you had to go through, especially in a creative business?
So some of the regular challenges I did express to you as to what it takes for a young girl to start out in India, especially on a business of her own with no mentors or family backup. But that said, the creative business itself presents some additional layers because it's something that's a 24 by 7 churn in the head. You're forever trying to connect dots, trying to understand things. And each of your clients are very different from the other because, none of them are quite like the other. So you could be dealing with fashion or education, or you could be dealing with, FMCG, and another day it's industrial, and some other day it's corporate, it's IT, it's finance. I mean, the number of things that you'll have to tune yourself into and to keep yourself updated on is very, very high. And apart from that, there's also the thing about, how do you be witty? How do you look at the new tools that can be used? And how do you basically look at the essence of your messaging? How do you get your teams to start thinking along those lines? And how do you also sometimes educate a client in order to appreciate what you're bringing to the table? Because sometimes the client is actually ready, and sometimes the business is not. And sometimes the business is ready, but the client somewhere fears to go, the extra mile, or take that big call on terms of which creative to go for. So then you also, when you look at, say, something like an executional challenges, then there are, there's basically people management, resource management, finance management, and of course also, making sure that all the important aspects of your client's business, services, products are highlighted. And sometimes, I think the biggest challenge of a creative business is also making a client see the power of their own potential, or where their brand or entity or service can go, both internally and externally. So many times you meet clients who want to believe in themselves. They come to you basically because they want to be able to get that validation about where they want to go, or something external, some magic that you can create, which basically, they look forward that you bring it out for them. So those are many, many aspects of the challenges of a creative business.
Right, ma'am. So, moving ahead, tell us something about the product and services at Rasters Media.
So Rapid at the core is basically a strategy and a creative house. So we focus a lot on understanding what makes companies operate the way they do, where their potential lie, and how to sort of connect the dots for them, which makes a lot of dynamic sense in the markets they operate with, where the opportunities lie, and where they can tap, how they can go address a gap. So there are all these aspects that we look into when we try to come out with a solution for them. We work across the gamut of audiovisual, basically the written word, the spoken word, the audiovisual, also a lot of new media. We are always on the lookout for something that's a little more futuristic, that's a little more interactive, that's a little more cheeky if we can, if the client would be happy enough to go that extra mile in exploring. So there's always this slight bit of nerd quotient that clients who know how to get out of us or would appreciate that in us always get rewarded by. So that's the whole range of solutions that we bring to the table. Anything that gets a brand, its communication and its strategy going, that's where you will find us making a huge difference.
Right. So, tell us something more about your additional business, Jackpot Foods, that you have co-founded recently.
So the foodie in me is a little bit responsible for that. And at the core, I'm also an activist who really believes that the world is not a fair place, but should be. And we are definitely going to be running into a sort of a food shortage soon, maybe sooner in our country, maybe across the world. So I was always on the lookout for something that if I'm involved with, can I make that slight bigger impact, something that is going to touch lives. And in my quest for food sustainability and what could help us in the future, that's when I stumbled on this absolute super fruit called fruit. And initially, I never used to even like jackfruits as a kid. But the more I am discovering about this magical fruit, the more I'm humbled. I definitely see it as something that's going to really solve um, a lot of problems for our country and maybe the world as well, because it's a tree that's very native to this region. It's there in the history and literature of this land for more than 2,000, 3,000 years, and it's grown in most people's backyards. And so for me, it's more like a vision of jackfruit for maybe every home. And if we could achieve at some point something like what Amul could do for the dairy business, if we could sort of help with the jackfruit, help in food shortage, sustainability, less consumption of meat, um, and so much more. I mean, out of the jackfruit tree and the fruit, we would be very happy. And we just launched last year, and we have about three products at the moment in the market. And we are launching about 3 to 4 more products this year. The vision is to have about 30 to 35 products in the next 2 to 3 years across a variety of audiences, customers, and usage. So it's a very exciting phase for the Jackpala story.
Right, ma'am. So, you are a writer, a poet, and a creative professional. So, how has that journey been?
At the core, I have been a storyteller all my life. I think I started as early as maybe when I was 5 or 6, when I used to have some of my, neighboring friends, neighbors and friends, or they used to sit and listen to me. So at the core, I'm a storyteller. I've always loved um, making up stories in the head and having an audience for it. And that's also something that ended up being a part of my large part of my career of 26 years. And initially, I used to write more as a personal vent, but at some point that changed. And I think I was open to taking it to larger audiences. I have 3 books that have been published, and I'm looking at about 2 to 3 more this year, hopefully, along with my book of poetry as well. And I have about 18 more books in the pipeline. And it's great fun because as a storyteller, you have a lot more control as an individual in the kind of messaging you want to say, to feel, to breathe. And it's like being an actor, right? An actor gets to explore being so many people, enter so many worlds into so many time frames and things like that. So yeah, being an author and being a creator and of words, of imagination, of ideas, it's a very powerful place to be.
Right. So, now, since we know a lot about your professional role, tell us something about your social contributions also.
So it's interesting that you ask that, because for me, that again is a very integral part of not just my identity, but I think should be of every person's identity in some form or the other. For me, I've always been passionately involved in the cause of children, children's education, and also anything that to do with, I think, women issues. At the core, I am a humanist. I like to believe in the power of human beings to, drive their own difference. And somewhere I feel that it's possible to create a world in which most people can be reasonably happy. And I used to run a small home for underprivileged children called Kumaranilia, where I was, self-funding and taking care of about 6 to 7 children. Unfortunately, during at the end of the last recession, I had to put a stop to that. I hope to revive it sometime, but I'm also engaged in a lot of, basically sustainability initiatives, farming initiatives, food initiatives, and also across anybody who's working in the cause of children and women issues. I think I'm somebody who's very keen to say that there is justice, there is fairness, and there is a lot of hope that everybody can lead a much better life than what we are currently all struggling with.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations on winning the Indian Achievers Award. I really want to know that what was the feeling when you came to know that you have won the award, and who all were the constant supporters in this journey of yours?
First of all, I mean, it was an amazing feeling receiving this award, because my bulk of my journey has been lifting other people up, building their image, or trying to make sure that you're always motivating them. So sometimes to receive it back is absolutely brilliant feeling. And to a large extent, if you look at my journey, I think since it's been very self-driven, um, I probably will have to, if other than first of all giving credit to my own spirit that has sort of managed to survive it for so long, and with so much joy, I think a lot of it I would also give the credit to the clients who have stood their ground, believed in the power of the ideas I bring to the table, or pushed for our ideas in their workplaces and helped us to, really bring the difference to the table. And definitely a few in the family circles and a few of the friend circles and my own teams, the people I've mentored, some of them who actually run their own businesses today. So all of them, I think, contribute in some way or the other to what can one can contribute as a successful place to be. I think the biggest success is to still be excited about what one can still do and not think, oh my God, it's already 26 years. I think it's not about the number of years, it's just about whether it still kicks you up, whether you're still excited about it, and whether ideas, people, energies still get you going. I think that's very critical. That is the biggest.
Indeed, ma'am. So, before concluding this session, you know that IF is followed not only by mainstream organizations, but also those young minds who aspire to be like our achievers someday. So, what is that one message you'd like to give them?
I think the youngsters of today are really they have a lot to teach. I'm learning a lot from them. I've been working with a lot of young people of late, and I what I find very refreshing is that there are a few things. I mean, I'm fairly liberal, open-minded. I have to be in the line of work I do, but at some point you do sometimes have old blocks or bias, and it's extremely interesting to go there and unlearn some of those things because you learn some refreshing, easier ways of looking at problem solving or a situation. Maybe it's a personal perspective. Sometimes they help bring, but it also adds to the way we look at work, the way we look at engagement, the way we look at cooperation, the way we look at team building. So it's a lot more fun, a lot more flat, a lot more simpler, and a lot more, I think, finally effective. And it's an absolute pleasure that way working with youngsters of today. And there are a few aspects somebody like me would definitely be able to help them with, which is how do you bring a certain, how as a woman can you operate? What helps you to stay the game? How do you kind of control your power without becoming a little too assertive? Can we, can we still remain feminine and still work in a very masculine world? And how do you balance those elements within yourself? How do you get along with people? So there are a lot of these aspects which I think are old school, but which are still very critical. Because ultimately, it's not about, it's one is the quality of the game, it's also about your ability to stay the game. And I think those are the aspects that people who are young today can learn from people like me.
And that, I must say, is a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining with us today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we hope that you continue to inspire people of all ages forever. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you too. And all the very best.